Top stories. Can you still die from the COVID-19 virus if you are fully vaccinated, as some international reports have suggested? We explore that issue. Plus, herd immunity in St. Kitts and Nevis may not be achieved this year at the current vaccination rate, according to health authorities. And Premier Mark Brantley slams the opposition for what he deems their non-cooperation with the Nevis Island administration in the fight against COVID-19. Welcome to the Skn Newsline Newscast. I'm your presenter, Andre Huey. Can you still die from the coronavirus if you are fully vaccinated, as some international reports have suggested? We explore that issue in this report. Can a person who is fully vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine die from contracting the virus? There have been several reports in the international media suggesting this can happen. In a CNN article dated April 15th, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported about 5,800 people who have been vaccinated against the coronavirus and were infected. Of that number, some became seriously ill and 74 people died, the CDC said. It said 396, which is 7% of those who got infected after they were vaccinated, required hospitalization. In light of this information, does the COVID-19 vaccine, as health authorities locally have been saying, protect against contracting the virus, serious illness, or death? Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin says yes. He explains that the reason for the cases of fully vaccinated persons who became seriously ill or died after contracting the virus depends on when they contracted the virus.
A vaccine stimulates antibodies. It takes about 2 weeks for those antibodies to peak. In that 2-week interim, you can contract COVID and die. But after 2 weeks, when the antibodies peak, your risk of dying is decreased by over 90%. So the effect of the vaccine is not immediate. The effect of the vaccine kicks in about 2 weeks after being fully vaccinated.
So then, in other words, these cases could have been persons who would have contracted the virus shortly after getting the vaccine.
Or before.
Or maybe before, right? Possibly before.
Yeah.
So the vaccine would not be effective if they were in that incubation period.
In other words, if the horse has already bolted from the barn, closing the barn door makes no sense. So that's why it's important to know the timing of these incidents that come before death.
Dr. Martin reiterates the view that the government should look at accommodating the public where it can in order to increase the vaccination rates.
Our government should put orders in for the Cuba vaccine and also the Canadian vaccine, which is a DNA vaccine and stable on the refrigerator conditions. That's the vaccine that was tested on animals here in St. Kitts. So I think we should, if people say to you, dear government, I do not trust vaccines from the United States and India, etc., but I trust vaccines manufactured. If people say that to you, and the number of people saying that to you is in the hundreds or thousands in a population of 54,000, I think you have to listen to that.
At the time of this story, just over 40% of the target population got the first dose of the vaccine, but just over 220, or 0.84%, were fully vaccinated, meaning those who would have gotten both doses of the vaccine. This is a far way off from the 70% of target population, or just over 33,000 people, that the health authorities are aiming for to reach herd immunity. Andre Huey, Skn Newsline. Can you still die from the coronavirus if you are fully vaccinated, as some international reports have suggested? We explore that issue in this report.
Health officials are continuing to urge citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis to be vaccinated against COVID-19 in order to allow economic recovery. It is generally believed by health authorities that vaccination against the virus is the only practical and effective means of escaping the clutches of the pandemic. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, nationals have been urged to use the available AstraZeneca vaccine before its shelf life expires, but there is much hesitancy among a significant number of persons. As of 6 May 2021, only 40.2% of the targeted population of 33,037 for herd immunity had taken the first dose of the 2-dose vaccine, with less than 1% being fully vaccinated. With full reopening scheduled for October and for reaching herd immunity, the current rate of vaccination indicates that herd immunity will be achieved in 2022. Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin explains why.
The rate of vaccine uptake, first dose uptake, has been dropping. As it drops, your catch-up rate increases. And my last calculation last week, Friday, was that the catch-up rate would have taken us into March 2020. We started out with an original run rate of 2270 doses per week. That was late February. After about 10 weeks out of 29 weeks, the catch-up rate was 3,000 per week, higher than the original run rate. So she's correct. At the current rate, we would achieve the so-called herd immunity after March 2022.
Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, also commented on the situation and offered encouragement towards vaccination.
The rate has slowed significantly, and if we are hoping to open the economy this year in October for the upcoming tourist season, we cannot continue at this rate and get to herd immunity while one appeal to persons and hope that they will do the altruistic thing and come forward and get vaccinated, not just to protect themselves but to protect others. I believe that if we just go on the voluntary basis, we will not get there. And so the question is, how do we get to herd immunity? I have said before that we need to focus on developing little herds also, and so one can have little herds in businesses, in churches, in your home, in schools. And so we encourage every single person who has some degree of control over the groups that come in contact with them to encourage them or to nudge them or to give them a little push to make sure that they get vaccinated.
Meanwhile, tourism authorities are working with a tight deadline to have frontline workers vaccinated for the limited start of cruise tourism in July. Glenn Bart reporting for Skn Newsline.
When we come back, the opposition on Nevis taken to task. Elliot's Funeral Parlor is the first licensed embalmer in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a friendly and professional staff. At Elliot's Funeral Parlor, we offer a wide range of packages from $6,500, homegoing service at chapel, locally made caskets, tailoring of outfit for deceased of your choice, wake, overnight with slideshow, funeral, death announcement, obituary, booklets, family pin-ons, memorial books, preparation of funeral arrangements, wreath, fresh and artificial. For further information, call 469-3298, 664-2007 or 660-0186. Elliot's Funeral Parlor in Gingerland, Nevis. Dedicated to those we serve.
I need some veggies for dinner. Let me just check the amount of sodium in this can. Oh no, this is too much. Let me try our next option. They did say it's healthy to consume less salt. This is much better. I am salt smart.
Football is back, and the St. Kitts and Nevis Football Association will be bringing you live football on its website, www.sknfa.com, with Premier League Live. Without fans in the stadium due to COVID-19 protocols, you can now watch every single Premier League match this season on www.sknfa.com and click on Live TV. Games are shown live on every match day with halftime and post-game shows. It's Premier League Live. Commentary, analysis, action. Never miss a game.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
Auto Plus Car Wash, located on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Bring your car to Auto Plus Car Wash to remove water stains, wiper marks. Get your doors, roof panel cleaned, seat floor mats, buffing, headlights, and engine wash. You get quality service at the best price at Auto Plus Car Wash. They really care for your car. Call 765-5140 or visit them on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Auto Plus Car Wash, where the service is number one. Welcome back. Premier Mark Brantley slams the opposition Nevis Reformation Party for what he deems their non-cooperation with the Nevis Island administration in the fight against COVID-19.
Nevis's Premier Mark Brantley is calling on the political opposition, the Nevis Reformation Party, to be more active in efforts to achieve herd immunity through vaccination in order to put residents back to work. Premier Brantley was critical of the NRP leaders for what he described as their silence on a matter that is affecting people's ability to secure proper incomes. According to the Premier, the opposition needs to do more if they have the interest of the people of Nevis and the wider federation at heart.
COVID is no respecter of persons, position, political party, race, class, education. It is the respecter of no one. COVID is a disease. And I am saying to the opposition quite clearly tonight that it is time that you open your mouths and join in the leadership. It doesn't mean, as some of you seem to think, that you support the government. That is not the issue. It means that you care about your country and that you support people, and our people are suffering. They need to get back to work. They need to be safe. If we are truly interested in the future of Nevis and the wider federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, the opposition needs to step up.
Speaking on his weekly radio talk show On the Mark on Wednesday, 5th May, Premier Brantley said he had invited the opposition to be engaged against a threat that knows no political boundaries.
I have spoken via telephone with the parliamentary opposition on Nevis. I have written to the parliamentary opposition seeking partnership and support. I have not yet had a response, but I am hopeful, because it is not just about criticizing everything the government is trying to do. It is also about offering your own ideas. It's also about offering your own partnership, because if Nevis collapses under the weight of this pandemic, then guess what? There may be no Nevis for you to lead if you feel that is what you're cooping. There may not be enough federation, because all have acknowledged that COVID-19 poses an existential threat to our country.
The Premier noted that having another low tourism season will have drastic consequences on the economy of the country and the livelihoods of citizens and residents. Glenn Bart reporting for Skn Newsline.
The successful staging of the first annual Marine Drone Challenge organized by the St. Kitts Nevis Robotics Association, SKNRA, shows the technical ability and cognitive skills of the Federation's youth. This is according to Dr. Ricardo Neal, founder of the SKNRA. He told Skn Newsline that he was heartened by the response of the participating students in the Marine Drone Challenge held on the weekend.
They were able to spend the night working on the entire concept, and they were able to come out with a product that actually worked. And so that in itself tells me and gives me the entire confidence that this is a worthwhile event to actually push. And then you find within the entire operation that students were able to use their cognitive skills. So it demands a certain level of thinking. And critical thinking. Right. It bring that out. So they had to be thinking on their feet, constantly. Now that also caused me to say that this is what true education is. Education should be something that comes to life, that young people can hold, that young people can see, and that is what actually plays its role over the weekend.
Shamar Pemberton, the one who conceptualized the Marine Drone Challenge, explained how the competition works.
The competition was based in water, obviously, so it was a pool mission course that we constructed. So each team were given the necessary materials to create their drone. And this drone they created had to be able to complete certain tasks. Now, some of these tasks included, part of the course we had an area called sunken waste. So the task of the drone would be to remove some of these sunken waste to a safe area called the disposal vault. So it's basically like a garbage can underwater. So they had to remove the waste from one point and take it over. So in doing so, they would accumulate a number of points. I think it was about 5 points each time they moved something from the sunken waste. A similar area we had was on the surface of the water called the garbage patch. So we had floating materials there that basically the drone would have to do the same thing. But instead of taking those to the disposal vault, they have to take it back to the team. So think of it like you go to the beach and you see a piece of a bottle floating in the water. You have the drone going, collecting the bottle and bring it back to the person retrieving it so you can dispose of it. Right? So amongst those tasks, it was a race.
Students were given the raw materials and were expected to develop a unit to perform various tasks in the pool. The competition was won by the Washington Archibald High School, followed by the Bastyr High School in second place and the Charles E. Mills Secondary School in third place. The competition was held at a pool location in Limekiln. The organizers thanked various businesses that supported the challenge and vowed to make it an annual event. I'm Andre Huey reporting for SKN Newsline.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
You know, it's me, Mr. HE, and I'm here with one message: roll up to roll out. We all know how difficult things have been during this COVID-19 pandemic. While we continue to wash our hands, wear a face mask, and practice social distancing, how about we take it one step further and get vaccinated? Call the nearest health center to find out if you are eligible to be vaccinated. Or you can contact the Ministry of Health at any one of these numbers down below. Don't be discouraged by the negativity. We all have a role to play in protecting this federation. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out.
Stay abreast with news on St. Martin with SMN News. Visit www.smn-news.com for up-to-date news, scoops, opinions, and hard-hitting facts. SMN News, we tell it like it is. Visit our website www.smn-news.com.
It's the new and improved Skn Newsline Android mobile app. With the Skn Newsline app, you can watch your news reports, the Skn Newsline newscast, sports, special features, and so much more. You can also send us a WhatsApp or call us directly. Go in the Google Play Store, search Skn Newsline, and download the app today. The Skn Newsline mobile app. News on the go.
Junior, can I get popcorn, please? Don't tell Shane, Dev. Want some to plead? I can get some starch. More, please. Boy, take a pack up from Junie.
Welcome back. For the big stories in regional news, we now have our Caribbean news segment. In Antigua and Barbuda, the government there is contemplating mandatory vaccination for selected sectors if the nation fails to reach herd immunity within the next 3 months. More in this ABS TV report.
There was no tongue-in-cheek approach. Government remains unsatisfied with the pace of vaccination in the second phase of the COVID-19 inoculation program.
We continue to be more on the slow take-up. This is not just restricted to Antigua. Seems to be a regional and a global trend, where after the first doses of vaccines, where there's a break because of supply chain issues, it seems that we have lost some momentum. So clearly, the government is focused on regaining some of that momentum.
Specifically, the main economic sector, tourism stakeholders are convinced full vaccination is the only way to assure the safety of staff and visitors and encourage a swift and full return of the tourism industry. Minister Nicholas says principals of the Antigua Barbuda Hotels and the Tourism Association were invited to Cabinet's meeting on Wednesday and provided this perspective.
Their clients, their guests, wants to feel comfortable in a safe environment. So it's become a marketing and an economic issue. How do you guarantee your guests when they're actually booking and asking you, do you have a safe environment for me to spend my vacation? And how can you say yes when less than half of your employees are currently vaccinated? And it's going to take at least 8 to 10 weeks for the remaining employees to be able to get vaccination if they start in earnest now.
Cabinet is therefore considering a mandatory vaccination policy for those working in select areas within the next 3 months if herd immunity is not voluntarily achieved.
We certainly have a window of opportunity over the next 90 days. We would expect to see cruise lines begin to return here in June, at the end of June. We certainly expect the hotel sector as well to reopen. We'd expect more persons to be booking stay-over vacations. And so we certainly want to contain ourselves within that 90-day window. We have enough vaccines to complete the second dosage of those first 30,000 persons. We have additional vaccines that will be arriving here shortly.
The recommendation is in line with that of the Caribbean COVID-19 Tourism Task Force, which has been encouraging all tourism-related stakeholders who are able to do so to be vaccinated as soon as vaccines become available. For ABS News.
Internationally, a large police operation targeting drug traffickers in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro has ended with the deaths of at least 25 people, including one officer. Al Jazeera reports.
It was the deadliest operation in Rio de Janeiro in years. The police entered the favela of Jacarezinho, allegedly to fight the recruitment of children and teenagers by a criminal organization. Suspects tried to escape across rooftops as police entered the slum in armored vehicles and helicopters flew over the area. The intense firefight left at least 25 people dead, among them a police officer. Rio has suffered for years from drug-related violence, and attempts by different administrations have failed to control it. Police say Jacarezinho was one of the bases of Comando Vermelho, the most powerful drug trafficking group in the country. They say among the dead were leaders of the gang that dominated life in the slum. At least 10 suspects were arrested. But human rights groups say the operation was mounted to avenge the deaths of 4 police officers a few days earlier. The Supreme Court has banned security operations in Rio slums because of the abuses and killings denounced by residents in the city's poorest areas. The Institute of Public Security says almost 500 people have been killed so far this year at the hands of the police. Some of the residents are angry. They say the police committed a massacre and are demanding an investigation. Joel Luis Acosta is a human rights lawyer in Rio.
They entered with the same dynamic to 5 or 6 houses, houses destroyed, shootings, executions. That was an execution. One man died sitting on a chair. From a chair nobody shoots. It was cruel, barbaric. This has no solution.
Jacarezinho is one of the poorest communities in Rio. Most residents here are caught in the middle of a conflict between criminal organizations and the police. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera.
The restrictions were due to be lifted next week, but with Japan still grappling with a 4th wave of the pandemic, this announcement had been widely expected. 4 prefectures, including Tokyo and Osaka, will have the state of emergency extended to the end of the month, while 2 more will be given emergency powers.
About the holding of the Games, there are concerns raised by the people of Japan, which I know. First, the current expansion of new cases has to be curtailed. About the Tokyo Olympic Games, the most important thing is preventative measures for the athletes and their teams, and to protect Japanese nationals.
The restrictions were introduced to curb the spread before an important annual holiday period at the end of April. While the government says there's been a reduction in the amount of people travelling, infections have continued to rise. And the normally bustling downtown Shibuya district of Tokyo has been as busy as ever, with people seeming to ignore the public warnings telling them to stay indoors. It raises more questions about how Japan can safely welcome in thousands of Olympic athletes and officials, with new coronavirus variants rapidly developing and spreading globally.
I don't think we should go ahead with the Games. If we do, it will cause the numbers to go up sharply.
The COVID response hasn't been effective. I'm deeply skeptical of the government.
The government shouldn't host the Games just because it feels it has to. The Olympics should have the support of the people.
An online petition calling for the Games to be cancelled has attracted more than 200,000 signatures. A recent call for 500 nurses to volunteer their time to help with the Games when medical resources are already so stretched has also proved unpopular.
We don't have enough hospital beds, and the biggest problem is our lack of preparedness for tackling the pandemic. I am absolutely opposed to hosting the Olympics under these circumstances.
And all of this comes against a sluggish rollout of vaccines compared with other developed nations, with barely 2% of the population receiving even a single jab so far. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera.
In sports, women cricketers have received their pro contracts for this season, as we hear in this ABS TV report.
Hector, who lost her contract last year, is among 18 West Indies women players offered to retain a contract for the 2021-2022 season. The fast bowler, along with Cassia Scholes and Kiana Joseph, were added to the list of 50 women who were offered contracts for last season. CWI's lead selector for women's and girls cricket, Anne Brown-John, reveals that all the players who were on contract last year have been retained for the new contract period. Director of Cricket Jimmy Adams says the developing players who were offered contracts got them on merit. The West Indies women are currently here in Antigua for their second high-performance camp of the year under head coach Courtney Walsh. Hector is the first Antiguan to play for the West Indies women's team. Joel Rain, ABS Sports.
And that will do it for this edition of the Skn Newsline Newscast. For more stories, log on to our website, www.sknewsline.com. From all of us here at Skn Newsline and Channel 95, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.